Barcadians, and welcome to another episode of Gaming News Weekly, your obscure weekly gaming news show on YouTube every Friday at 5 p.m. UK time. As ever, your hosts here, present, excited, raring to go. Me, Tabs, and my good friend and channel partner, Rich. Say hello, Rich.
Hello! Hope everyone's doing well this week.
Fantastic. So just in case you're new to the channel, Barcadians, give us a sec. The way we do this is we cover three of the juiciest stories we could find in the games industry in any given week, rattle through those, give our opinions, and then we finish everything off with a round we call Everything Else, which is just kind of a word or two on some other bits and pieces we couldn't feature in the main. But before we go into all that, we start off by talking about, well, being hopeful, what we've been playing in the last week, because we are avid gamers and we like to share that passion with you.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there's been a theme in recent weeks, because we're both really busy and it's nearly Christmas time, that we've not been playing an awful lot, and I think that's probably going to hang around a little bit. So, Rich, has there been any shred? We'll take anything, mate. I mean, what did you say? Scrabble with the missus last week? Have you been playing anything we can just get through as a game?
I don't think so. I very, very, very nearly bought Farming Simulator 2022, which I know on the channel we've laughed at Farming Simulator numerous of times. But I don't know, after watching Clocks...
Google Stadia exclusive.
Yes,
Farming Simulator, yes.
After watching Clarkson's Farm, I just thought it seemed... it would be entertaining to sort of play around on a farm. So I really very close to buying that and playing that, but alas I didn't. Mainly because through watching some YouTube videos, it seems the on foot part of the game is first person only, and watching those videos on YouTube was making me feel ill, let alone playing it myself. So that sort of kiboshed that idea, unfortunately. And unfortunately, that means I've played no games whatsoever this week. So yeah, apologies, Barcadians. I'm not keeping the gaming end of the channel up this week. But Tabs, I think you've been playing some games, haven't you?
And just a word on the Farming Simulator. I had a little look online after you said.
Oh, okay.
It does look like you can get a mod for third person, but I'm not sure. You know, if you're not into the modding scene, it can be a bit of a faff putting them on sometimes, can't it? And I don't know which version of the game you get in, but
it would be the latest one that came out like a week or 2 weeks ago or something. The only trouble with that is I would have to get it on the PC, which is fine, but I was gonna get it on the PS5 just for ease more than anything really. But yeah, so I don't know, that's on hold at the moment. So yeah, anyway, Tabs, what have you been playing, buddy?
Well, speaking of farming simulators, I don't feel like Skyrim is too far away in some ways. There's a lot of resource management going on, especially. So yeah, I've been playing some more Skyrim on the Switch. I played it a while ago when it first came out. You know, built a character, got really far. For some reason though, I feel like I played it a couple of times and I always get distracted. Just get lost in building the character and forget about the story, and I never complete it. So I thought it would be a nice game to chip in with. I'm very familiar with it. I kind of know how it all works. And yeah, I'm just cracking on, like looking up loads of YouTube videos on how to, you know, increase your skills really quick. And then hopefully this time will be the time I actually complete the story. But I'm already the Archmage of the College of Winterhold, which is like where they teach magic.
Excellent.
So I'm doing well. But yeah, that's it this week. So yeah, do better next week, Rich. Barcadians, tell us what you've been playing in the comments, if indeed you have. But first story this week, my friend, reads Major GTA Trilogy Patch. And this article comes from Polygon. This is what they had to say. Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy The Definitive Edition developer Grove Street Games released a major update for the remastered collection of GTA games on Tuesday. Title update 1.03 for Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy The Definitive Edition seemingly fixes numerous visual bugs, including misspellings on textures and store signage, indoor and underwater rain, and Caesar's notorious hot dog fingers. The infamously upscaled nut on Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Tough Nuts Donut Shop, which was erroneously altered to not be nut-shaped, has also been fixed. Rockstar said in patch notes for the title update, San Andreas' sky will also look more natural thanks to newly added cloud cover. The remastered version of San Andreas previously offered an unnatural, crystal clear and unobstructed view of the entire landmass. So yeah, I've seen a bit of coverage on this. I want to see more because obviously patch notes, you don't get the full picture necessarily. You kind of need to see some gameplay. But from what I've seen, it's a great start, and they're obviously, I mean, this kind of atmospheric cloud cover alone, Rich, does look a lot better. I have seen a screenshot of that. And I know that did look a bit of an eyesore, to be honest. And then obviously the rain effect we know was a big bugbear, especially at night, I think. So great that that's been fixed. What I saw, I think, no, I don't really mention it here, but I think these are all limited to like basically every console bar Switch. So, you know, if you're a Switch owner, I don't think you're going to see a great amount. I think these are mostly were updates for every other platform. And then I think that also carries into, they've announced a delay to their physical editions. And I think Switch has actually been put back to next year as well, 2022. Don't quote me, tell me if I'm wrong, BArcadians. So yeah, we're on that roadmap, aren't we? We're on the journey to hopefully creating, you know, doing justice to these, what would you call them, mate? Industry-defining games that deserve proper care and respect.
I mean, ultimately, you'd call them masterpieces of their time, wouldn't you? When they came out, they were absolute masterpieces of their time, which is fine. I do have some problems with this. One of our friends is currently playing Vice City from this trilogy, and I believe he's playing on the PS5. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tabs. I think he is.
I think you're right. Yeah.
He actually says Vice City is more bugged since this update. He's had exploding cars, which he'd not had before. He's had lots of things that he had not had before. He now is getting, lots of these documented things that are not right with the game. He's actually got more since the update, which I think he's found quite disappointing. And I think he said some shocking frame rates as well, which is a shame. On the Switch, I did hear that they're going to do a sort of standalone patch coming down the line for the Switch, because it sounds like the Switch is one of the most broken, like
in terms of FPS.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be some sort of standalone fix coming for that, but obviously it's like anything, it's going to take time, unfortunately. Yeah, it's all just a big shame, isn't it? You know, titles that we've spoken about before. So it's great to see that they're fixing it, and I'm hoping they'll continue this and we can see a much faster fix than say we've seen for Cyberpunk, which is still not truly fixed, and might be more on that coming. But yeah, it's just a shame that these games that I personally hold in such high esteem, you know, especially San Andreas, that's the one I really got my teeth into, that they're almost being a little bit tainted by this. And it's a real shame. I don't know. I don't want history or the thoughts around these incredible games to be about this misstep with them. I don't know. It's difficult.
I think the danger is, isn't it, with these bolt-on patches, you do, you know, the way games are made, you can affect the build, and these fixes you put in may fix a specific issue, but then have a knock-on effect and break something else. Yeah. And maybe that's it. They're trying to react really quickly, get these out to obviously change the tide of the reception and public outrage. But obviously in doing so, perhaps they've just not, they need to now go back across another kind of sweep and re-optimize them with these new fixes on board. And then, of course, we presume they're going to introduce even more fixes and patches down the road as well. So it's an ongoing affair that's just can only be described as messy. Yeah, and I think the best advice to myself is just going to be give it 6 months, see where we're at, see what the state of play is. Because like you say, mate, I don't want to taint the experience of playing these games. I want to play them in their best possible state. I don't want to. It was like with Cyberpunk, I was an early adopter, and I'm kind of gutted that if we'll come on to it in the second story, if the fixes that we hear about are coming and next gen upgrades down the line, you know, I'm never going to capture that magic of playing it for the first time in its best possible shape, because I kind of dealt with what it was like at launch. But mate, that being said, why don't you tell us a bit more about story number 2?
Absolutely. So, story number 2 is Cyberpunk Redemption Arc. Interesting. And this piece of information comes from Polygon. CD Projekt's next-gen versions of Cyberpunk 2077 and The Witcher 3 are coming in the first half of 2022, the company said Monday as part of a quarterly earnings update. The publisher-developer said that a major update for all platforms for Cyberpunk 2077 will arrive alongside the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X versions of the open-world action-adventure game. Cyberpunk 2077's next big update and its new console versions will arrive sometime in the first quarter of next year, said Adam Kaczynski, something like that. President and joint CEO of CD Projekt, in a message to investors. That's a bit more clarity than CD Projekt offered just last month when it warned that all updates planned for Cyberpunk 2077 had been pushed to 2022, which we mentioned last week. I think it was last week. The Witcher 3's next-gen update, which promises visual upgrades and new items inspired by the Netflix series based on the Witcher books, is expected between April and June 2022, so a fair way off still on that. CD Projekt also has ongoing work on an expansion to Cyberpunk 2077. In parallel, we carry on with the transformation of our studio, which is affecting more and more production teams, he said. So, I think it's really good that they're addressing exactly what they're doing and sort of setting out a plan of how they're going to move forwards. I mean, Cyberpunk's been out a significant chunk of time now, and we're still talking about patches that will fix the game that's been out for... I mean, when did it come out, Tabs?
No idea, mate. I'm terrible with dates.
It's got
like a year odd.
Yeah, I think it's a year. I think it was like this time last year or a little bit long. So it's shocking that we still don't really have like a true example of the game they want. They're still, putting the flames out, so to speak, on the things. But great to hear that we're going to get a Witcher 3. Excited for that. People love that game, and I think that stands a bigger chance when it comes to the next gen of being, truly brilliant. So that will be good. What do you make of this, Tabs?
Yeah, I think there's a glass half full and a glass half empty kind of, dynamic with this one. I think glass half full, well, it sounds positive that we're going to have major updates for all platforms alongside the next gen release. So what does that make you, next gen release, sorry. So what does that make you think? It makes you think that there's a potential that they fixed it entirely. That they've improved the AI, they've removed all the bugs, they've optimized it. For all the platforms, and then alongside that we're going to get this spanking next gen update with some fancy graphical techniques and whatnot, and who knows, maybe they've even filled in some of the gaps that have been documented in terms of the content and the fact that it feels a bit threadbare in certain elements. That's the glass half full. The glass half empty though, mate, is the fact that there's a lot going on here, isn't there? So not only are they delivering major updates for all platforms, delivering next-gen versions for the PS5 and Xbox Series X, alongside those projects, they're also looking at an expansion for Cyberpunk. They're also delivering The Witcher 3's next-gen update, which is no doubt to sort of tie in with the popularity around the next season of The Witcher, I would have thought, and cash in on that. The fact that its profile is going to be peaking at that point across the entertainment industry. And yeah, suffice to say, I mean, he talks there, doesn't he, about expansion of the transformation of our studio. And we've said that throughout, that we think perhaps a lot of the problems with Cyberpunk 2077 was that they've scaled up in size from this kind of indie sort of outfit to, massive corpo, to use their terminology in Cyberpunk. And therefore, they bit off more than they could chew. It was just all too much. And this makes me think, glass half empty, is this all too much? And are all of these individual deliveries going to turn out to be microcosms of the original Cyberpunk 2077 launch? And they just don't deliver soundly.
So I would say that the passing shots at the end of as we carry on the transformation of our studio, which is affecting more and more production teams. I mean, that almost suggests that's almost like I did say back then that we were transforming the studio. So I almost feel like that's been put in there as a just in case it doesn't go quite right. We've sort of said that at the end. So that's the first thing. What I was going to say to you, Tabs, is hypothetically speaking, Tabs. Cyberpunk 2077 launches on next-gen consoles and they update it and we'll say June next year. And it's perfect. It's the game it was always supposed to be.
Amazing.
But how would you feel as an early adopter of this? Would you feel more betrayed than you already did? Knowing that, well, if they'd have left it in the cooker for another 18 months, it would have been the game they all promised us. It's hard to, how do you quantify that?
Selfishly, there'd be that an element there of being a bit gutted that we didn't get what we wanted at day one, and it's becoming a problem across the industry, isn't it? Where they deliver these unfinished games. It's a whole other thing. But to be honest, I think I would feel kind of just happy for everybody else who hasn't played it and who's waited very sensibly to play it, and then they can get to enjoy it in the light it deserves to be enjoyed in. There is a lot of redeeming features of Cyberpunk 2077. The story, the narrative, it's got some great moments in it, and some of the graphics, some of the scenes, if you like, in it are stunning. So it really deserves to be the version of itself that we all wanted to see. And there's still chance that we'll get close to that, and I just hope they manage it. But yeah, like you say, the way that article reads and how much is in it, I don't think I'm experienced with CD Projekt Red in recent times has taught us to be cynical. If you want to try and get to the truth, and that's my concern here. But mate, shall I move us on to the third story?
Go for it, mate.
Chrono Cross Remaster hopes. So this is an article we've taken from Game Rant, and this is what they had to say. The video game industry is filled to the brim with remakes, reboots, and revivals lately. Microsoft is working on new entries in the Fable and Perfect Dark franchises, bringing them back to the Xbox, while Sony is enjoying a successful new generation of God of War games. That's why it's no surprise to hear leaks claiming that a Chrono Cross remaster is in the works, potentially reviving one of Square Enix's most acclaimed games. Of course, if Chrono Cross makes a comeback, then its predecessor ought to get a remaster too. The time travel titan Chrono Trigger is the natural companion for its interdimensional cousin. A new version of Chrono Trigger could both revitalise the Chrono IP and inspire other RPG developers working on next-gen games. So this one's actually been kicking around, mate, for about a month, I think, rumours, but they keep kind of doubling down on each other, and each week that goes we hear another kind of bigger outlet pop with more rumours behind it. So it almost seems like it's becoming one of those best kept secrets and or worst kept secrets in the games industry sort of things. So yeah, I mean, I'm personally excited because I haven't played Chrono Trigger or Chrono Cross, and I know that regularly I see Chrono Trigger crop up as many people's best games of all time, best RPGs of all time. Its soundtrack is apparently phenomenal. And I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy games, and I don't think it's too far away from that. It does different things and in different ways, but I know its roots are kind of JRPG, turn-based. But this time travel mechanic, thinking in the original game, it was almost like there was these two dimensions, and you'd have to jump back and forth between those dimensions, and they'd have knock-on effects. It just sounds like it's quite an exciting idea to explore in a video game. I thought, go on.
I was going to say I've literally never heard of this game. I've obviously lived a sheltered life, obviously, but yeah. So it's interesting to hear you talk about it there, because it does sound like a really interesting game with some quite cool and seemingly quite unique gameplay functionality. So that is cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, BArcadians. I think Chrono Trigger was a SNES game. and I think Chrono Cross was a PlayStation game. And Chrono Cross didn't perhaps land with some of the hardcore fans in the way they'd hoped. I think it took its own path. It had similarities, but perhaps didn't fulfill on some of the purists and what they wanted to see from a sequel. But still a good game by all accounts. I think reviewed quite well generally. But yeah, it's one I've always missed out on, and I know it's held in a lot of gamers' hearts very, very dearly. And yeah, like it says in this article, they really go on to suggest, they want to see this Chrono Trigger remaster or remake or whatever. And I think I'd love to see, it's always exciting to see IPs come back that have kind of lost their moment in the spotlight. Because essentially, to many of us, like we're saying, mate, they're brand new games. And they've got so much they could bring to a modern gaming landscape. And more excitedly, I'd love to see a brand new iteration in this franchise, maybe building on what we've seen in the past on next gen. And this sort of thing, if it goes well, is perhaps the start of that. So good news all round.
Excellent. Well, should we do everything else?
Let's crack on, my friend. You kick us off first.
Absolutely. So first up, we got The Matrix Awakens is an Unreal Engine 5 tie-in with The Matrix Resurrections, which comes out sometime next year, which I am very interested by that. Two things, The Matrix, Unreal Engine 5, finished.
It's going to look gorgeous. Hopefully there's a decent developer behind it, because we all know about movie tie-ins with video games that don't always go well. Next up, 6 US states pressure Activision Blizzard to make sweeping changes. So I understand, Rich, this is coming from like a governmental perspective.
I think they've now come on and said, it's time you need to make... So they're just basically putting pressure on them from like a governmental side to make changes within their organisation and how people are accountable by all accounts. So yeah, it's interesting. We'll see. Bye
Bobby.
Well, I think that's all. I mean, I still can't believe this continuing to stand by him, but we'll have to see how this develops. We've mentioned it a few weeks now, so I'm sure at some point it's going to come to a head. Moving on to some actual quite breaking news today. Kojima Production appears to be on a hiring spree, and they look to be taking on almost 30 people, which is currently advertised on the studio's website for hiring. So that's incredible. That suggests what a big title, I would say, to bring 30 people on board. Is it linked to these mysterious mocaps that we've been seeing with Kojima and a mystery man, which is almost certainly our man from Death Stranding and the thing I'm watching, Walking Dead? What do you make of this, Tabs? It's interesting.
Yeah, really exciting. I mean, as long as it's not Xbox exclusive, that would be a bit annoying unless we can get it on the PC. But what did you say in the article? Did it describe it as a high-level project, something like that?
It did say that. The only thing it said is lots of people who advertise for like games developers, new roles. They all say that basically. It's like a buzzword in a job advertisement. So I don't know whether you can read too much into that, but it's really interesting. He's obviously got something smouldering away, and he's got. What tends to happen with Kojima is he's not very active on social platforms when there's not a lot going on, and then he becomes more active on social platforms, not necessarily with anything that you could say was anything game related, but in some way it's dropping little hints, I seem to think. And he has been more active on social media, so interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see, unfortunately.
Keep our eyes peeled. Yeah, let's keep reading into his cryptic clues, and maybe we can spin another series out of that, mate, down the line.
I love it.
But I think that'll do us for today, BArcadians. Thank you for joining us and sticking with us up until this point, if indeed you did. As ever, I'm going to assume you've smashed that like button, because that is really the only and best way to support us and the channel in our never-ending mission to grow, despite the horrible algorithm on YouTube, which just doesn't seem to want to help us at all. Make sure, if you love what we do, enjoy it, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications to stay abreast of us every week. Friday, 5 p.m. UK time is when we ship this new show every week, and we shall see you next time. And I think That's another one for the archive, Rich.
Stamped and completed.